How do you see this media environment changing as we approach and head into kind of what's being floated by the PM as the second phase of COVID-19?
Well, going forward, when we were discussing earlier, we said we're getting used to the new normal. Well, the new normal is probably about to change and will continue to change as we go forward. And there's all kinds of questions about what this is going to mean. Are we going to go so far then have to go back, and all the kind of issues? How will we go about our everyday lives, going to work with our families? Will our children go back to school? All those kind of things. Lots and lots of questions. And one thing that is certain is there will be no instant immediate answers. And the public will continue to be hungry for all kinds of information, and that's where there's a lot of collaboration that's going to go on between news media organisations talking to themselves. We've seen a lot of it pulling together. You've seen newspaper companies that you might have said are rivals and will probably go back to being rivals, actually pooling their resources and engaging with the public and saying, look, here we are, all of us together. There's a big campaign out there called All In, All Together, which is backed with £35 million worth of government money. And that's to do with newspapers, the local and national level, actually getting the messages across to try and get, because government realise that if it's just stark posters, stark adverts, very often this just washes over. But if they can make it human, and this is what newspapers and newsrooms and broadcasters do, it's humanise things, to tell the story in a way that you will understand it. So if the government has a message to get across about maybe, social distancing has to continue in a certain way and that this is the way that it is, they'll turn to the storytellers in the media to do that. And there'll be a lot of emphasis again on trust. What is this trust? Very interesting survey out from the Reuters Institute quite recently of where does trust lie with the journalists? And I think there's a slide up on the screen there, and you can see the BBC journalists, not surprisingly, I've got a higher level of trust. ITV journalists, upmarket newspapers, a lot of trust with them, reducing with mid-market, and supposedly not so much in the red top tabloid newspapers. But you would find actually, if you drill down into that that's not necessarily the case, that the readers of those red top tabloid newspapers actually have a lot of trust because they read those papers. And there was a research done and published only this week from the Reuters Institute, which show how the public are thinking about this and where does their trust lie. Do they believe that the media are doing a good job? And at the moment they're saying by 30%, yeah, we think they're doing a good job. 30% are saying we think they could do a better job, and the other 30% are saying actually you're being a bit too heavy on the government. And it's the same actually when it comes to do you trust the government? It's 30% say yes, definitely, 30% and 30% not at all. And it's kind of in that kind of way. So there's an awful lot to play there on trust. And going forward, we will see the media wanting to reinforce the mainstream media that, look, you can trust us, and here's the reasons why. When we give you news and information, we've checked it. We've found what the sources are. We trust these people that are telling us these things. So an awful lot of it is going to have to be like that. And a side effect of all this is companies have brought forward their subscription paywall initiatives that have been in the background, but an awful lot of local newspapers particularly, you didn't have to pay to read the content online. And what we've seen is a number of companies, considering NewsQuest, one of the biggest, have actually now introduced subscription paywalls for all of their daily newspapers. They've also brought them in now for about 45 of their large weekly newspapers. What they're saying is you can still get all the information and news on the COVID-19 crisis for free, but once you've reached a certain level of having seen about 20 to 40 stories in a month, we will ask you to pay a small amount then to continue to do it. And so they're actually now relying on people saying, actually, we do actually trust our local newspaper. We do value them, also our national newspapers, everywhere else. And we're prepared to pay a little bit for that.
That's actually quite interesting. And I just wondered if you could expand on the point about community activity. I know that we spoke in length actually about how there's obviously a lot of local news going on at the moment. I know from myself being down here, a lot of the groups online and in fact the local media reporting these good news stories. How do you think that will change throughout the process? If we're going into the second phase, do you think there'll be more increase on community activity, and how would that work with the subscription paywalls?
Well, yes, it's very interesting how it will work with paywalls that are there for subscriptions. With the community activity, what you've actually seen is with newspapers but also with broadcasters and radio, is that they wanted to join in and they wanted to underscore. I'm not going to say that suddenly they've gone, hey, let's make out that we're part of the community. They always have been part of that community. They need to underscore all that. We've seen newspapers, newsrooms engaging. We've seen newspapers around the country actually saying, look, we know it's difficult to get for you if you're from the vulnerable, for you to get your groceries delivered. We can help you deliver those groceries with your newspaper. We've seen fundraising that's gone on a huge scale. Millions have been raised with all kinds of campaigns, and we've seen on a national level, we've seen national newspapers particularly pushing to get the NHS, our heroes there, recognised more, push for bonuses, for compensation when any of them are tragically killed by the COVID virus, and all those kinds of things. Now, this will continue, that community activity, because at times of crisis, what happens is that we pull together as communities. We've seen it probably locally.
Completely.
Probably some of the folks out there, you'll have seen it with your neighbours. You may not be able to actually shake their hands, but you wave it across the fence, and you're probably all on a social media link and whatever it is that's going on there. That's going to continue. That's going to go out there, because this crisis isn't going to finish tomorrow. It's going to be ways of how do we all pull together? How can we continue to do that? And if, as a business, as an organisation, as a body, you're thinking about doing that, or you're already doing that, and you want to pull, and tell that to the media, get the media involved. If you've got some great ideas about this, because they will be looking for those ideas. How can we extend this out, that we are not just being seen to play a part in the community and being part of the solution to all of this, but genuinely want to be part of that. So if you can go and say, look, we've got this idea, or we're doing this, can you assist us in that way? I think they'll be very receptive to that.